I accidentally finished, like the recording. So let me just, wrap it up. But as I was saying, like I went to the mall and I went to the grocery shop. I was fine. Like basically from the point I left the church to when I kept going, I was feeling increasingly worse. There were other things I wanted to do. I thought, oh yeah, by the way, something that will change, a little improvement, a little not improvement, but something that did happen. I did mention yesterday that I was thinking about taking Italian lessons, and we're doing it. My dad and we're gonna have class every Saturday, which means that after in 3 weeks, like the classes are going to start, so I will not really be able to go to the meeting, this cell group, which I said, but you have to make choices in life, and it's not going to be forever. It's going to be from April 11th to July 11th, and I'm really kind of like excited about the prospect of speaking the language and learning. And that is, some learning anything is good for your brain, and I've been kind of like trying to get myself to get to the way that I used to be before. And the way I used to be before is like I love the languages, learning. So we're doing this again. I'm happy, excited about that. Also, better look at my Naruto shirt. I don't know. I think it's cute. It is pajamas. So my mom is like, "You're gonna wear pajamas," but like it's not like I haven't done that before. And also like this shirt is very similar to the one I was wearing yesterday, and like that one was not pajamas. So I just find that where it is. But basically, so from the point that I left the church, I started to feel increasingly worse. And then when I got, to the mall, I went first to the grocery shopping, and then I got up, because I went I had to drop off because I bought a letter from Temu. And basically only a piece arrived, so we're returning it, particularly because like it was very expensive for just like one piece. So like we really believed that it was going to be the full thing, and the ad naturally very deceiving. No surprise there. That's how this usually works. But as I said, like since the price was higher, we really thought like, oh yeah, like there's something here. But yeah, so I went and I dropped off. I did everything I needed, I had to do, and then I went off trips. Basically, I went to some stores. I saw some stuff, but I was getting incredibly worse. Like my plan was not to leave, right after the mall. I wanted to go to some other places downtown, and that ended up not happening because basically I was really sick. I got sick. It got to a point where I started to have a headache, and the headache just got worse. And then I was feeling this kind of like this heavy feeling on top of myself, which sometimes I feel when I'm about to faint. So I had to sit down, but like sitting down like is not enough. I needed to really lay down. And there was also nausea. It was started to kind of like plague me. And basically that's kind of like what was happening. So I decided to get an Uber, instead of like taking the bus, which everybody supported because I was feeling very sick. And it was like there was this increase, but it was kind of exponential in a certain way because I went from being kind of fine to really bad in like 10 minutes. So that was not great, but I still got to do everything that I needed to do. Not everything that I wanted to do, but everything I needed. And that is oh my god, there's water pouring here. Let me remove, because right here is like the mattress where my dad has been sleeping. I think that I'm at a point where I'm at a point where like he's probably going to stop doing this soon. But like he was doing this because my head, he wasn't always so good. There's a lot of issues. But yeah, also like he likes this mattress. He says that it is really good, and that he has less pain when he uses it. But yeah, so I ended up arriving. I wasn't upset with my parents because I did tell them like that I was getting sick, and I kind of like needed somebody to help me out of the Uber when I arrived home. And they kind of they didn't see it because they basically, oh, it's me. I'm out of my room because basically it was raining very heavily. I removed the mattress from like touching the wall, but like that was not enough because there's more stuff, in the background. So like just there's like this little budgets. Okay, I'm kind of like getting fried here. I might need to lay down. So I'm gonna wrap this up as quickly as I can because yeah, I'm starting to no longer feel as well as I was when I started this video. But I arrived home, and then basically my parents didn't really see my messages because they were like really redesigning upstairs, like they're changing furniture, changing its places and figuring out like what was good. So they didn't see see the messages. But yeah, I arrived. I felt like shit. I went back. I went down to like lay down like immediately. Like I went out at the stairs of how bad I was feeling and how much like it felt that like there was this feeling of like that was going to faint, which is something that like there's definitely a connection because historically whenever I need to vomit or to poop or to poop and I can't. There is this fainting thing, so I don't know what like the logic is there. I think that you can talk about the vagal basal vase. But yeah, so I kind of like I lay down and I felt a little bit better after some minutes. Oh yeah, I shut like the blinders because and I didn't really look at my phone because as I said I had like a really bad headache and screens don't help with that. So I was basically laying down and then I puked. Like I ran to the bathroom and I puked and ended up puking along the way. So that was not great. That's pretty much where like my parents got me my bucket so I can lay down. I had the bucket there in case I need to puke. And then this time around, like this puking, I don't think I have ever puked so much in one session ever. Like I just puked everything, like everything that, because as I said, when I puked first, I was feeling there was a struggle for food to leave my mouth. It was kind of like like it was difficult, but then like this time around, like stuff was just like almost like a cartoon. But yeah, so I puked everything solid. The next times that I puked was mostly liquid, and I had to be between like having this full-on puking sessions. I ended up having some moments where like food had some reflux, and doesn't really mean anything because I do get reflux sometimes, but it was kind of like paired up with that. It's interesting because like even like those small amounts that we're getting, that was getting out, like they made a difference in my well-being. Like I was feeling better from them, from getting them out. So that's been kind of like my afternoon so far. I lay down and I feel sick. I feel like, and I feel like lots of different things at the same time, which is not pleasant because I feel pain, but I also feel discomfort. So I can't find like the right way for me to lay down. Like I'm kind of like short of breath, so I am fatigued. Like I need to lay down. Like I had, the barbecue with my friends today and I won't really be able to go. I was kind of like ready for that. That's pretty much why I'm ready. But then I realized that yes, I can't, this is not happening. Just like rest and relaxation for me. And also it's interesting because as I said, I'm not looking at any screens. So like I can't write, I can, like work, I can't really get anything done. And I mean Saturdays for relaxation. But like whenever I have these moments where I have to just sit with my thoughts, it's always like, why? Like I wish I could be doing something else. But I'm going to be respectful of like the orientations that I have, the guidance, which is that I shouldn't really look at screens. So I am technically looking at the screen right now, but yeah, so maybe I'm not 100% compliant. But like the idea is that for me to lay down and I'm just sitting with my thoughts, which has been driving me mad a little bit. Although I will say that there's the pain and discomfort, they come and go. So half the time I don't even have like the fortitude to really like be upset about this because I'm just in pain and the pain doesn't go away and the pain is coming from different points and the discomfort is coming from different points in my body and I don't really know. So what happened? I think you could call this like food poisoning. I think because there's something that kind of like poisoned me, but there is like the whole mixing of things for me to get for me to lose weight like that definitely corroborated to the situation because the thing is that like I've been taking this week was like the second week, so next Tuesday is going to be the third shot that I take, and I did go places and I ate different foods before and I didn't really have anything, like nothing at all. So there is something there with like the food from the cafeteria, like there's something. I don't think it was I don't know, maybe I'm gonna learn a lesson when I go back to class Monday that a lot of people got sick and that would explain it, but so far there's no, I don't know how I got here, which ends I have my suppositions and I'm going to try to do better, so I'm going to be more conscious of the food I ate Also, like I didn't eat too much yesterday, but I definitely ate more than I've been needing to eat because like that's pretty much what all the different medications I'm taking. That's pretty much what they're doing. They're getting me to have like less of an appetite. So I didn't eat too much. Didn't eat excessively. I ate like a regular amount of food for me. How well used to be a regular amount of food for me, but I think in this current state that was not. Like that was kind of. It was too much. So I think it would be the amount. It could be like the fattiness, of the food. I don't know, lots of different possibilities. I think that the lesson that I have learned is that I will be kind of like eating. Because I had the banana which I have already puked, and then I puked. Oh yeah, because I said that I went straight from like I puked and then I went back to my room, but actually in between I ate half a banana, so a fourth of a banana, and I'm waiting to see if like that's going to be spelled out because in between these meals like what I had was like a lemonade, like pure lemonade, like no additions or anything, and before that my parents they gave me this was like a lemonade and with like baking soda. And I think it was also good, but like the last time I puked, I think I puked like everything that I drank. I puked a lot. Like it was not halfway, the bucket, but like it was kind of like 30% of the bucket was just puke, which is it's just bile at this point. It's like liquid and bile. So I'm like getting back to very slowly eat foods, but I will say that it helps that I'm not hungry because it sucks when you're hungry and you want to eat something and you can't eat that thing. Like that is probably one of my top 8 worst things. I don't know why I said 8, but it will be top 8. Like if it was 10, then it would be top 10. Worst things that can happen to you. Like there's so much worse things. So there's much worse that could happen to you. And also, I will say that like I think that at least half of this list would be just food-related situations. So, for example, if there is you wanting to eat something and you're not having the money to eat that, you wanted to eat something, but that being bad for your health, you wanted to eat something and that being like I don't know making you fat. Like you wanted to eat like a certain amount of food, but you have not been able to eat like that much. So lots of like bad things that can happen eating wise, and there's a place for all of them in my head, but like that's whatever. So yeah, it's good that I'm not feeling hungry because that this way I can kind of it's going to be easier because I don't want to eat, which is also bad. My parents are thinking about getting me some Gatorade, or like the Coca-Cola version, Powerade, wherever is cheaper. And I don't know, I don't like I would get replenished, so like that would be good, but I don't really feel like drinking Gatorade. Like that is something which is crazy because when I was a kid I loved Gatorade, but I wasn't really allowed to drink it as much as I wanted because like if you don't need to replenish anything, like that's not it's not good. And also it help just help you put on weight, and I like to live my life in a way that because things are going to you're going to put on weight regardless, but I want the things that like are getting me there to be something enjoyable, something good. So like instead of drinking Gatorade I would have like a milkshake. I don't know the comparison between the two, like in terms of like calories and all of that. The whole thing of calorie counting is that it's one of those things that like associate with eating disorders. It's not inherently so, but it's one of those things that I feel like I don't know if I'll be able to do that. So there is a skill there. There is something to be said about the folks who count their calories. Same with people who count carbs, for example. Like there's something there. But yeah, so that's been basically my life today. I arrived home and then I went to bed, and I just was in the dark, not looking at my phone, not really doing anything. And as I said, like seeing your thoughts, it can be good. Like you can grow as a person from doing that. But half the time I'm like in pain, so it's just like me rolling around my bed. And then the other half, I'm like I feel like half the time I'm in pain. 25% of the time, 75% of the time, I'm uncomfortable because when I'm in pain, I'm also uncomfortable. And then there's like the quarter, which is pretty much what happens right after I puke or evacuate, where I'm feeling better, but it soon goes away. So yeah, what are the plans for the rest of the day? I'm gonna drink tea that my mom made for me. She actually prepared 2 cups, so I'm going to drink the tea and I'm going to lay down, close my eyes. I'm probably going to use like that thing that I have to cover my eyes because it's dark, but it's the middle of the day, so it's not dark enough. And I found that like just laying down, it's been kind of effective in a certain way. I don't know if effective is the right word because I'm still struggling, but I don't know. I think when I'm like sitting down, just laying down in a comfortable position, like everything is more manageable. And I think that when I'm moving around, basically, so I'm trying to say that like it gets in the way. Like me moving just makes the pain more intense, and it just gets me to feel like it's kind of like I am discomfort, personified when I'm walking around. So rest and relaxation, only like very unsavory foods, like stuff just like rice, both like no seasoning, like maybe some chicken, like the tender kind that has no seasoning to potatoes, no seasoning. So that's kind of like what I have in store for me. And of course, I'm kind of scared, to eat because basically, what if I puke again? I will feel better once I puke, but that pretty much means that my body is still not properly, receiving, the food that I'm giving it. So like, like that's a problem. And as I said, like, but I did eat, like the fourth of the banana, and I'm fine. So like I think that. But yeah, that's going to be not even oranges I can eat. I think that they are too. I don't know because like they're citric, but like I did drink citric things and like they're good for your stomach or something. I actually don't know the logic there, or like the principle, but that is just one of those things that internalize existing in life. You see people doing it and you do it yourself because it's kind of like common sense. But I don't know what the reasoning is. I'm pretty sure that there is a reasoning behind it because people wouldn't just do something that, I mean, sometimes there's this placebo effect thing. So like maybe you do something and it makes you feel better. It's not because it's inherently better, but like you're kind of like feeling it. But yeah, but I need to lay down for a while. So I'm just gonna wrap this up right now. Bye.